theyeshiva.net.
We're holding by the word gufa. You see 3 lines from the top. Pesachim Yud Zayin Amud Aleph Gufa. Let's recall what happened. The Gemarah recorded at the end of Tazayin Amud Beis that fascinating exchange that happens in the days of Chagai, right? Chagai, the prophet, who wants to know if the Kohanim are ready to serve in the new rebuilt second Beis HaMikdash after the first destruction. Chagai is one of the Nevi'im of the time, and Hashem sends him to give an exam, literally an exam to the Kohanim. And Chagai poses the following scenario. And what's the scenario? Let's take a look in the pasuk. The Gemarah quotes the whole pasuk, so we have the pasuk inside. The last 4 lines of Tazayin Amud Beis, take a look in the pasuk. I quote, Hein yisa ish psar kodesh b'knaf bigdoi. Now listen carefully. V'noga b'knofei el alechem vel anozid vel ayayin vel shemen vel kol machal hayigdosh. Translation. A person is carrying b'knaf bigdoi. In the corner of his garment, he's carrying psar kodesh. Psar kodesh, we explained, as Rashi says, tameh dikemit. Tameh dikemit, like sheretz. Let's say a dead sheretz is tameh dik, it's a tameh dik rodent. He's carrying it in the beged, and he touches with this sheretz, which is in the corner of his beged, he touches bread. And the bread touches a stew, a cooked stew, a dish. And this stew touches wine, and the wine touches oil, or any other food. Does the oil become designated for tumah? Vayanu HaKohanim vayomru loi, and the Kohanim said, no. No. And the Gemarah posed a tremendous question from this on Rav. A gewaldike kasha on Rav. Rav told us, this is always, you have to remember, that Yosef ben Yezer testified that the mashke in the butchering place of the Beis HaMikdash near the altar, the butchering section where they prepared all the meat, whatever they had to do with the meat, clean it, skin it, flay it, rinse it, part had to go on the altar, part has to be eaten, etc. Whatever has to happen, all there, the mashke there is tar. And Rav, unlike Shmuel, said, what's pshat tar? Completely tahar. Not only does it transfer tumah, it's not makabel tumah. And as we explained, the Rav is of the opinion, according to Yosef ben Yezer's testimony, that liquid is not makabel tumah min haTorah at all, anywhere. Because if it would be makabel tumah, the rabbis don't have the authority to say, no, Beis HaMikdash not. They can't cancel out a mitzvah. They can't change halacha. Torah says it's tameh. They say it's not tameh. Sheretz touches the water. No, it's not tameh. Well, the Torah says it's tameh. Where do Chachamim have a power to take away tumah? Obviously, you have to say tumas mashkin is the Rabbanon. If it's the Rabbanon, they have the authority to say we didn't do it in the Beis HaMikdash. Beis HaMikdash is off limits to our Gzeira. That was Rav's explanation. The mashkin Beis HaMikdash is tar. You have a pasuk in Chagai. You have a pasuk in Chagai. Chagai says, is the oil tameh or not tameh? The Kohanim said it's not tameh. And Rav said, ishtabish kani. The Kohanim made an error. In other words, it was tameh. Really? Mashkin is not tameh. Minat Torah. So where did it get tameh? You're going to say, okay, the Rabbanon. Chagai is not Torah, it's the Rabbanon. It's a Navi. It's the beginning of Bayesheni. Anshe Knesset Agdola, they made a Gzeira. He wasn't testing them on the Iraisa. Minatayra, they were right. But the rabbis made tum on the oil. Well, that doesn't make sense, because Rav teaches that what? The mashke in the butchering place of the Beis HaMikdash is tar. In other words, the rabbis didn't make a Gzeira in the Beis HaMikdash. Chagai is not talking about the meat in Borough Park. Not talking about oil in Bnei Brak or in London. He's talking about in the Beis HaMikdash. Which oil is he talking about? Which one is he talking about? The wine that goes on the Mizbeach, the oil that gets mixed into flour that's used as a meal offering. That's what he's talking about. Not talking about oil in my Hanukkah lamp, in my house for Hanukkah. Where's there a tumah? It's a gemoideke kasha on Rav. Gewaldeke kasha. Because Rav says the Kohanim made a mistake. If he would hold the Kohanim didn't make a mistake, they're beautiful, they didn't make a mistake. It's pure. You know why it's pure? Because it's always pure. I don't care if it's a Revi, I don't care if it's a Chamish, I don't care if it's a Rishon. Can't be Mekabel Tumah. But Rav said, Ishtabish Kani. Rav, we have a tradition that Rav said that it was a mistake. Wow, big question. This is the last Makkah B'Patish, the last question trying to refute Rav's position in Yosef ben Yezer. It's, of course it's a question. It's a test. It's an exam. It's a pchina. Well, Chagai was asking them, and when they said the wrong answer, the alarms went buzzing. Rav says they made a mistake. Yeah, we'll soon see. The Gemarah is going to continue what happens after. What happened was Chagai asked one question. The Kohanim said pure. He asked another question. They gave an opposite answer. And Chagai said, this is a problem. Rav can't argue with Chagai. And Yosef ben Yezer can't say, Chagai holds it's Tameh, and I hold it's not Tameh. Really? Yosef ben Yezer is now arguing with a pasuk? You don't have a precedent like that in Judaism. You see, it's always important to understand the system of Torah Shabbal Peh. It's like I always say, when people don't learn well, they don't understand. A halacha here, halacha there, halacha there. There's a system. Everything is with a system. There's a rhythm. There's a beat. There's no such a thing. Any Tanner Amida argues with a pasuk. There's no such a thing. You can argue in the pshat in a pasuk. Yitma, yitame. That's a good question. Yitma, it becomes tameh itself. Yitame, transfers tumah. Fine. It's a big question. Is mashke tameh or mashke transfers tumah? Reb Meir holds mashke gets tummy, doesn't transfer. Reb Yossi, Reb Shimon holds mashke transfers. Yeah. Reb Yehuda holds it transfers even to Kalim. Fine, good. Yeah. Rav holds it doesn't get tummy at all. Yitma doesn't mean the mashke, it means the oichel. Fine. That's all pshat in a pasuk. That's good. But to go against the pasuk, Chagai is telling me that it's tummy, and Yossi ben Yezer said, no, I disagree. The rabbis never made tumah. You disagree with a pasuk, you have another pasuk. It doesn't work that way. There's no precedent like that. It can't happen. The whole Torah loses its integrity. Torah Shebiksav is the foundation of everything. Torah Shebal Peh is explaining Torah Shebiksav. Torah Shebal Peh is not, you make your own religion because you're in the mood of making a gzeda and not making a gzeda. It doesn't work that way. You understand? It's very important to understand. That's not a possibility. That's not part of the options. Yosef ben Yezer can't argue with the Muslim, even though he was a Tana. He was from the early Zugos in Pirkei Avos. He was before the Tanaim, actually. I said a Tana, he was from before the Tanaim. Yosef ben Yezer Ish Tzreida is the first page of Pirkei Avos, right? Shimon HaTzadik, Antigonus Ish Soicha, Yosef ben Yezer Ish Tzreida, V'Yosef ben Yochanan Ish Yerushalayim Kiblu Mehem. This is still before Yehuda ben Tabai, Shimon ben Shatach, etc. This is the Chanukah days. Rav said that the Kohanim made an error. Why? Because the oil was tameh. How was the oil tameh? Right. Of course. If you would say that. No, I'm answering. I'm giving you an answer. Why don't you say Yosef ben Yezer holds that the liquid in the Beis Hamikdash doesn't get tameh? The rabbis didn't make tumah on it. Biblically, there's no tumah. Why Chagai says there's tumah? Because the rabbis made tumah. Yosef ben Yezer says they didn't. He can't argue with a pasuk. If in the time of Bayis Rishon, or at some point they made a gzeira that all mashkin gets tameh if it comes in contact with an avatuma, including in the Beis Hamikdash, so Yosef ben Yezer decided not. Pasuk says, yeah, he decided not. Let's see Rashi. I want you to look at Rashi. The last Rashi on Daf Tazayin Amid Beis. I'm sorry, the second to the last Rashi. Hein Yisa Ish Psar Kodesh. Says Rashi. Sheretz Lashon Kadesh Haya Ba'aretz. Tumah. Kadesh doesn't always mean holy. Kadesh could mean impurity. So Psar Kodesh doesn't mean holy meat. It means impure meat. Sheretz. V'haya Chagai hanavi boidikas hakoyanim b'shnas shtayim l'daryavish shahaya b'binyan bayis sheni leida im kiyin b'hilchas tuma l'fishin ishtakich men begoyla shalei nesasko b'bekotshim. Chagai the prophet was testing the Kohanim in the second year of the reign of Daryavish, the Persian emperor, during the binyan bayis sheni to find out if they know hilchas tuma. Why? For 70 years they're in exile. They did not deal with karbonis. 70 years is two generations. Kohanim don't have experience. They forgot the halachas maybe. How can they start again? So Chagai was giving a b'chini, was giving a test to the Kohanim. What was the test? V'naga b'knafoi ba'oisoi kanav sha'asheretz boy. With that kanaf, with that corner of the cloak where the sheretz was, k'loimar ha'sheretz atzmai. Rashi says, b'knafoi, don't think. The sheretz is b'knafoi. V'naga b'knafoi ala lechem. The beged touches the lechem. No. Rashi says, b'knafoi means with the sheretz that's in the knafai, v'naga b'knafai, he touches with that which is in the beged, he touches the bread, the sheretz atzmai. V'al karcha chachihu. How do you know? Maybe b'knafai means the beged touched the lechem, the sheretz touched the beged, so the beged is a rishon, right? And then the beged touched the lechem, so the lechem is a sheni. The lechem touched the stew, so the stew is a shlishi. The stew touched the wine, so the wine is a revi. The wine touched the oil, so the oil is a chamishi. And then the koyanim would be right, because there's no chamishi, right? But you're not saying that. You're saying that the knafay is the sheretz. So Rashi says, Val karcha chachihu, the imishum kanav shehu rishon. If it's because the kanaf touched the lechem and the kanaf is a rishon because it touched the sheretz, which is an av, then kulei beged nami rishon hava. Umayir yidinakit kanaf. Why did it say v'naga b'knafay ala lechem? The whole beged is a rishon. If a sheretz touches any part of a cloak, remember tumah is not compartmentalized. The whole beged is a rishon. So why the knafay? Knafay is the corner of the beged. So Rashi says, it says v'naga b'knafay, it's not the beged, because there wasn't a tumah of the beged that was transferred to the lechem. That would make the lechem a sheni. It was the tumah of the sheretz. Where was the sheretz? In the corner. The sheretz wasn't in the middle of the beged. It was wrapped up in some fold in the corner of the beged. That's what Rashi says. But Mela, the lechem was rishon, the stew was sheni, the wine was shlishi, the oil was revi. And if it's an oil of a carbon, if it's oil in my house, it doesn't get tamei. If it's an oil of a carbon, it gets tamei because it came in contact with the wine. So Rashi, sha'asheretz atzma, umayir dinakit konof, elamishim sheretz. Ha'sheretz atzma, noge el halechem. Halechem el hanozid. Hanozid el hayayin. V'hayayin el hashemen, oil kol meichel. At the end of the pasuk it says, oil or anything else. Doesn't have to be oil. Wine touched oil or anything else. Maybe it touched flour of menachas. Maybe it touched the meat of a carbon. Whatever, anything else. Ha'yikdosh, klum nitma ha'acharin azeshu revi b'kodesh. Is the revi become tamei? The lechem rishon, nazir sheni, yayin shlishi, shemen revi. And the koyanim said, tahor, it's not tamei. Oh, you're asking a good question. You're saying, what about oichel matamei oichel? We had 3 shittas. We learned before, ein oichel matamei oichel, right? Abaye said, ein oichel matamei oichel is only by chulin, but by truma and kachim, oichel is matamei oichel. So it would work. The lechem could be matamei the nazit. Why? Because it's kachim, it's karbonas. Fine. We had a second shittat of Ada bar Rava in the name of Rava who said, ein oichel matamei oichel by chulin and by truma. But by kachim, it's matamei. So we're still good. We had one opinion, Ravin, in the name of Rava, who said, ein oichel matamei oichel ever. Mikra moli dibur akosov, tamei hu. Oichel is never matamei oichel. We have a problem here. How is oichel matamei oichel? That was the question of Reb Chanina. What's the problem when meat touches meat and becomes more tamei? Oichel is not matamei oichel. So Gemarah answered there was only the Rabbanon. Right? So let's put that on hold in a moment. You're asking, like Ravina, it should be tahir because the lechem never went to the nazid. It never went from lechem to nazid. Or from yayin to shemen, because ein mashkin matame mashkin also. Unless you say that kachim is an exception. But if you say kachim is not an exception, you're posing a very interesting question from a different field. Forget revi shlishi. The whole tumah doesn't transfer. Let's put that on hold one moment.
What if the Rabbi also can work? shemen ve'ekol makom, it means that either shemen or any other food.
Good, but before that, but the lechem to the nazir didn't go. The lechem touched the stew. That's oichel and oichel. So he's asking, it never went. It never went from 1 to 2. No, nazir is a stew, a dish. It's oichel and oichel. But that's mashka, so you have the same problem. Just like ein oichel matame oichel, ein mashka matame mashka. So you'll have the same problem. So Rashi continues. Nazid, what's nazid? Nazid is a stew, a tafsha, like a cooked dish. Kamoi by Esav and Yaakov, we have unazid adashim. Yayin v'shemen shel nesachim. Very important. This is not just oil stam that you're making kiddush. It's oil that you used for the libations on the mizbeach with many karbonis is called nesachim, and the same is true. The oil is part of the menachas, and the wine is part of the nesachim, part of these libations. We always say, right, v'niskoy or v'niskayem or nesachah. What did the Gemarah answer? Let's see Rashi weiter. Rav says later, we're going to quote later, that the Kohanim made a mistake. They cleansed a revi. They said that a revi is pure. Alma, what do we see from here? Yayin v'shemen, the mashki, basement b'chayaninu umitamu. We're dealing here with wine and oil, which were liquids from the butchering section in the Beis HaMikdash, and they become tamei, and they transfer tumah. It's a double problem. They not only transfer, they transfer everything. V'i tumas mashkin de rabbanon. Okay, you're going to tell me that it's not biblical, it's rabbinic. You said that the Rabbanan didn't make a gzeir in the Beis HaMikdash. Even if you're going to want to push it and say that he was testing them on the Rabbanan. In other words, Bepashtus, when you read the pasuk, is talking about biblical tumah, which is mamish, doesn't make sense according to Rav. Because he says the Torah, there's no liquid tumah. But let's say you're going to say, no, it's all rabbinic, and by Chagai you already had the halacha that mashkin is tamei. I'm good. Zolzain. Kashil Rav. The ha'amar dochan mamish. Rav said that liquids in the Beis HaMikdash are completely pure. Unlike Shmuel, who said they don't transfer tumah, but they themselves are tamei. He goes worse. He says they're not tamei themselves. Now, we're soon going to have to deal with Shmuel, but with Rav, we have a serious problem. Certainly, if Chagai was talking about biblical tumah, it really doesn't make sense. Rav's position really doesn't make sense. Even if he's talking about rabbinic tumah, still doesn't make sense because it's only outside of the Beis HaMikdash. This is in the Beis HaMikdash. But certainly, if it's biblical tumah, for sure it's everywhere in the Beis HaMikdash as well. And yet here, you're telling me that what? That the Kohanim made a mistake? Oh, I have an answer. I have a third option. Chagai was talking about rabbinic tumah, and it's not the opinion of Yosef ben Yezer. Yosef ben Yezer says rabbinic tumah is not in the Beis HaMikdash. Chagai believed rabbinic tumah of liquid is in the Beis HaMikdash, and Yosef ben Yezer said that's not true. The rabbis made the gzeira outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Okay, that's a legitimate argument. Yosef ben Yezer holds one thing about the gzeira de Rabbanon. Chagai holds something else about the gzeira de Rabbanon. Chagai holds the gzeira de Rabbanon and mashkin extends to the Beis HaMikdash. Yosef ben Yezer says no. Rashi says, I'm sorry. Akra loy polig. Yosef ben Yezer is not going to be arguing on a pasuk. The mashma de is alayu tuma idar raise idar Rabbanon. Because from the pasuk, it's clear, it's mashma, because it doesn't say mamish, those words, but it's mashma that there is tumah and mashkin. Whether it's biblical or rabbinic, I'm giving you the option, but there's tumah. And Rav explained Yosef ben Yezer as saying, there's no tumah of mashkin in the Beis HaMikdash. And this is a proof, l'cha'ira, that Rav's position is erroneous, and it cannot be maintained. The kasha is on Yosef ben Yezer the way Rav interpreted him. You're saying even according to Shmuel, right? It still can't transfer tumah, and here it's transferring, right? The yayin went to the shemen. That's what you're asking. The yayin went to the shemen. Huh? The yayin went to the shemen, and Shmuel would say, sorry, the mashka doesn't go because transferring is only the Rabban, it's not on the Beis HaMikdash. That's what you're asking. Let's hold on to that for a moment. But this is really based on one idea. Rav said that the Kohanim made a mistake. Shmuel doesn't hold the Kohanim made a mistake. Rav holds the Kohanim made a mistake. That's why the Gemarah says, "V'amar Rav ishtabish kani." Without that, you don't have a question. Rav said the Kohanim had to say Tomei. They said Tor. Ooh, really? The Kohanim had to say Tomei. This won't work. Yeah, but it's we don't distinguish. That pasuk says Yuval of Mayim v'chol mashke. It equates it. So what's the answer on Rav? The answer on Rav is a big answer, and that is mashke of Beis Mitbachayim should not be confused with mashke of the Mizbeach. There's two different liquids in the Beis HaMikdash. There's mashke bei mitbachaya and mashke bei midbachaya. Tes versus Dalet. Midbachaya is an altar. Mitbachaya is a butchering section. Mitbachaya with a tes from the word tabachim is a butchering section. Midbachaya with a Dalet is an altar. Let's see how Rashi explains it. Midei havataima ela Rav, kluma tamaksha ela Rav. This question is on Rav, yeah. Rav like kashale, hi li'olam Chagai b'dirabanon badikluhu. Chagai was testing them on the Rabbanon. Ukvar nigzer gzeiras tuma la mashkin. And there was already a gzeir on the mashkin. Ule Rav alibadi Yosef ben Yezer loy tikshi. The Rav mashke bei mitbachai toni bei duser shel Yosef. Rav was talking about bei mitbachaya when he spoke of the testimony of Yosef. Mashka mitbachayim, the liquid in the butchering place. Dam omayim, the blood and the water that mingled with the meat of the sacrifices. Aval mashka mitbachaya, the liquid on the mizbeach, meaning hayayin v'hashemen shei mashka mizbeach. The wine and the oil, not the blood and the water that went on the altar itself to be offered as a carbon. Here, Gazru Rabbanan Tumma Alayu. There's a Tumma on it. Beautiful. Beautiful. So what does Rashi say? Rav will tell you Chagai is talking about rabbinic Tumma. In the Beis HaMikdash not. Depends which part of the Beis HaMikdash. In the butchering place not. The blood and the water there's no gzeira. But the liquid that goes on the altar as an offering, the wine that was brought in a vessel after certain karbanas, the oil that was brought as part of meal offerings, that gets tamei. Midirabanan. How does Rashi know that it's midirabanan? Why can he already say that Chagai is talking minatayra? Rashi says that according to Rav, Chagai is talking midirabanan. Once you're distinguishing between the Mizbeach and the Mitbachayim, why don't you just say Chagai is talking min ha-Torah? If Mashke was Tomei min ha-Torah, who gave you the right to make a difference between the Mizbeach and the Mitbachayim? Rabbis can't do this thing. The Torah never tells us a pasuk that says, oh, by the way, liquid is not Tomei in the butcher house. Really? Where's this such a pasuk? If your Torah says it, I have no problem. But Torah says all liquid is tamei if a sheretz touches it. Come the Chacham, no, we disagree. No such a thing. It's like Torah says you're not allowed to eat chazer. No, in the Beis HaMikdash you're allowed to. Really? Where does that happen? There's no such a thing. The fact that the rabbis could make a distinction between the Mizbeach and the Beis HaMikdash means that the whole tumah is rabbinic. If it's rabbinic, then they could be selective. They could say here, yes, here, no. And what would be the logic to distinguish? We understand the logic. What did the Beis HaMikdash look like? You know what it looked like? It looked like a shlachtois. You know how much blood there was. You know how much water there was. And therefore, if there was tumah, what would happen? All the karbanas could easily get ruined. Yeah? If the sheretz falls into water, if a sheretz falls into blood, if there's a kohen who's tamei, if there's another source of tumah, whatever the source of tumah, if the mashka gets tamei, what happens? It transfers tumah to the meat, or it's on the meat, yeah? Or it transfers tumah to any one of the types of karbanis in there, and it all gets tameh. It's a much more blood, water. But what about the oil and the wine? That was a very limited amount. There was a measurement that came with every carbon. It wasn't so lebedik and freilich. There was a person responsible to do it. It was much more isolated. It had its place. It had its time. The Beis HaMikveh was an ongoing, where the meat always had to be flayed and skinned and rinsed. There was a tremendous amount of blood and water. You could just imagine. So I could understand why there the Chachamim said, you know what? We're going to be lenient here. We're not doing our gzeira of mashkin. We're taking it off. But by the Mizbeach, the Tumah de Rabbanan exists. So B'meila Rav has no problem. Chagai is not talking about Beis HaMikveh. He's talking about the Mizbeach. The Yayin becomes Tameh. The Shemen becomes Tameh. And it transfers Tumah. And Rashi adds, V'hainu de beseder tumas de haikra, ike oichel metame oichel, umashke metame mashke, de medirabonon tuma oise kayoytze ba. And that's why in this pasuk, food is metame food, liquid is metame liquid, which many opinions hold that by kachim and anything else it wouldn't work. Only midiraisa. But midirabanan, we know that food is metame food. That's how we answered by Reb Chanina's Gana Kohanim. When you mix meat with meat, it adds tumah, even though ein oichel metame yoichel. Because midirabanan, for sure oichel metame yoichel. That is no question. If that's the case, oichel metame yoichel midirabanan, so then this pasuk works perfectly. It's taka rabbinic tumah, and that's why the bread touched the stew, and the stew touched the wine, and the wine touched the oil, and the oil became tameh. How? Because it touched wine, and wine touched the stew, and the stew touched the bread, even though it's oichel and mashke and mashke. Rav is answered. Rav was just salvaged, and he can maintain his position that liquid is not tamei min haTorah. And in the Beis Hamikdash, in one section, Yosef ben Yezer testified that the rabbis removed tumah, and that's the Beis HaMikveh, not the Mizbeach. Done. But we're not looking to make a distinction in Beis HaMikveh. You can't do this d'oraisa. You can't have in one place tahir and one place tameh if it's a tumah d'oraisa. You can't do that. The rabbis have very limited power. The rabbis don't got infinite power in our religion. I know some people think so, but that's not the case. And if they think they do, then they ain't rabbis. Then they're charlatans. The heißt was ich sag? The koyach of rabbi, the koyach of the rabbanon is one koyach, Torah. The moment they make their own, they're nothing. The koyach of a real rabbanon is that he has no koyach. Very important. The whole koyach of the rabbanon is that they have no koyach whatsoever. That's their koyach. Their koyach is that they're conduits for Torah. The moment they become anything else, then they should not have any koyach. Which can bring us into very interesting discussions, but not for now. But you get the point. So Rav said they made a mistake. They maybe knew the biblical halachas. They didn't know the rabbinic halachas. Chagai said, whoops, not good. Rabbi Huda and Rabbi Yossi hold that mashke gets tamei min haTorah. So for all the mashke gets tamei, even... Yeah, for sure, on a biblical mistake. Yeah. Of course, unless you'll say that they hold ein oichel matame oichel by kachim, and then they didn't make a mistake. Midoiraisa. So that's a good discussion. It's interesting how Tosfos learns the exchange. A little different than Rashi. I want you to take a look. The Rashis on this sugya are hard enough, so usually I'm not going into Tosfos, but I want you to take a look at Tosfos, because it's very interesting how he learns the pasuk. He learns a little bit of a different story. A little bit of a different kvetch. Tosfos has a big problem. The big problem is we gave a pshet. I'm not going to say a pshetel because it's Rashi, but we gave a pshat. Why it doesn't mean the beged made the lechem tameh? Because if so, it shouldn't have said beknofoi. It should have said bigdoi, because the whole beged is tameh. So Rashi said, why did it say knofoi? It means that the sheretz, not the beged. But why does Chagai have to be so ambiguous? Why couldn't Chagai speak clearly? Why can't he say, you have in your beged psar kodesh, and what happens? V'noga bebasar or b'sheretz or b'psar elavechem. No, V'naga b'knafai, which means not knafai. It means the sheretz in the corner of my beged. V'naga b'knafai, I would say, means I took this and I touched it. Those are his words. Fine, but he wrote it this way. He wrote it, so that itself is Zayin Azai. Let's say he explained it when he spoke, but he wrote it this way. So you're telling me a good pshat. It should have said bebigdoi. Fine, I understand. But you're still stuck. Why does he v'naga bebasar, v'naga b'sheretz, v'naga b'psar kodesh? He uses the word psar kodesh, unholy meat, tamidika meat, impure meat. The sheretz was in the beged. I got that. We know the sheretz was in the beged. I know, but the vart is that the sheretz touched the lechem. Because if the sheretz didn't touch the lechem, then the Kohanim were right. Because the oil is chamishi. Remember, so it has to be the sheretz touched the lechem. I understand why Rashi has to do this. He has to make sense of the story. But we're left with a little difficulty here. So the Pnei Yeshua says, Balabatish, that Chagai was speaking about practicalities. Practicalities is, how does such a thing happen? We have a klal, Kohanim is rizinheim. Kohanim are alert. They have alacrity. They were running a tight ship, and they were very, very alert. Kohanim is rizinheim. We know that. What happened here? How do they allow such a domino effect of tumah? Sheretz touched the lechem, a halbetzara, and now suddenly somebody's taking this lechem, putting it to the nazid. Now you take the stew, you put it to the oil. Now you take the oil, you take the wine, you put it to the oil. What's this hefke going on there? It's run by some hefke young who doesn't know what he's doing. A prostyak. What's it?
What's the Monsey
No, why? Why would you bring they cook the carbon. No, nazir doesn't necessarily mean a soup. It could be a soup also. Okay, yeah. I'm a kohen. I got a little meat of a carbon. Yeah. No, not by the mizbeach, where the kohenim ate. No, it doesn't have to be by the mizbeach. No, the mashke that goes on the mizbeach. No, the oil already. They took the mincha, they offered the oil, the mizbeach, right? Yeah. Maybe on the way he got tamei, maybe there was the other part of oil. The point is, it's not beis hamit b'chayim anymore. So the Pnei Yeshua says, Chagai is trying to explain how this is going to happen. What's going to happen is that the sheretz was not visible. The sheretz was wrapped up in a beged. So the source of tumah was not visible. So the lechem was touched by a sheretz. It's not like the sheretz was there, a dead big mouse on a lechem. And then a kohen says, you know what, I have a great idea. Let me mix this lechem with my soup. And then mix the soup with the wine. And then let's mix the wine with the oil. This wouldn't happen. This sheretz was an invisible monster. He was wrapped up by the beged. That's why he wants to say it. V'naga b'knafay ala lechem. So a mele touched the sheretz, but it was not visible. Nobody knew. Then a kohen comes, right, and he touches the lechem to the nazir, and then and then touches the yayin and the shemen, and then somebody says, "Oh, gewalt!" What happened? It's just the practical case that the sheretz was hidden. Pnei Yeshua's avart. That's it. That's why he does it this way. It was touching directly, but it was entangled and wrapped up in a fold. Yes. Right, so the one who touched the lechem knew. But that's why others, right? He announced it a little too late. He announced it a minute too late. The point is that the sheretz was not there, because then it wouldn't happen. Why if the sheretz was right there, right nearby, there would be a commotion, and they would take the lechem and burn it. They would take the lechem and burn it or get rid of it immediately. They would not allow it to stay around. The problem is the sheretz was not there. The sheretz was entangled in the beged of a kohen. Okay, it's just an answer. This happened, yeah. Yeah, that would be the most practical. In the lunchroom of the Azara, where they ate, yeah. Yes. Indeed. No, the guy said that I touched the lechem by mistake. I came near the lechem and I think the sheretz touched it. Remember, even if it's a suffix, you can't eat it. Even if it's a suffix, you can't eat it. Huh? You're saying it's a suffix de rabbanon. Since it's a suffix de rabbanon, so it should be sveika lekula. Okay, I don't know. It's not for now. You're saying if it's not a doiraisa, it's sveika lekula. Okay, like we learned before. Not for. But let's take a look at Tosfos's pshat. He has a little bit of a different pshat. Revi b'kodesh. You know, the Tosfos actually is on the next piece of Gemarah. We'll come back to this in a moment. Let's see the next piece because he goes on the next piece. Okay. Beautiful. Rav was salvaged. Says the Gemarah. Gufa. Third line, Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. Gufa, we learned before, we just quoted, Rav Amar Ishtabish Kani. Rav says the Kohanim made an error. Shmuel Amar Lo Ishtabish Kani. Shmuel argues, he says the Kohanim didn't make an error. Fascinating. Why is there an argument? What's the argument here? So they explain their svaras. Rav Amar Ishtabish Kani, and this is, by the way, them speaking. They're explaining themselves. Rav Amar Ishtabish Kani. Rav says they made a mistake. Revi b'kodesh boiminayu. Chagai asked them, what's the halacha of Revi b'kodesh? V'amru lei, and they said, tahir. It's tahir. U'shmuel amar lo yishtabish kani. Shmuel said they didn't make an error. Chamishi b'kodesh boiminayu. He asked them about chamishi. V'amru lei tahir. And they said tahir. Shmuel says the question wasn't Revi, the question was chamishi. Asks the Gemarah, Bishleim Rav. Rav makes sense. Hainu diksiv. The pasuk says, Arba, 4 items. Lechem, Nazid, Yayin, Shemen. Lechem is Rishon, Nazid is Sheni, Yayin is oil, wine is Shlishi, and Shemen is oil, is Revi. El Shmuel Chamisha Minole. Where did he get 5 items? Huh? Where did he get 5 items? Rashi learned that you can't say the beged, because if it would be the beged, it would say bigdoi, not knofai. So it's the sheretz. So if the sheretz touches the lechem is rishon. So lechem, nazid, yayin, shemen. Now it does say at the end of the pasuk, ve'el kol meichel. But as Rashi said, that means that the wine touched the oil or any other food. But where did you get a fifth level? How can Shmuel say there was no mistake? So the Gemarah says, miksi v'naga knofai. V'naga biknofay ksiv. B'ma shenaga biknofay. Take a look at that pasuk again. There's something strange. It should have said, V'naga knofay el halechem. The kanof, the corner of the beged, and we're explaining what's the corner. The sheretz, which is in the corner of the beged, touched the lechem. V'naga biknofay el halechem. Means he touches with his kanof to the lechem. If the kanaf means the sheretz, as Rashi explains, let's say kanaf means the sheretz, so it should have said, right? You have basar of sheretz, b'knaf bigdai in the corner of the beged, v'naga knafai el halechem. And that corner of the beged, or the sheretz in the corner of the beged, touched the bread. What's v'naga b'knafai el halechem? But we're saying that the kanaf, right, is not the beged. Because if it would be the beged, just call it the beged. We're saying the kanaf is, so to speak, it's like the package around the sheretz. It's like the bag around the sheretz, right? Yeah. So v'naga knafai, so the sheretz touched the lechem. What's v'naga biknafai? So Shmuel learns that which touched the sheretz. In other words, v'naga biknafai, that which came in contact with the kanaf touched the lechem, meaning there was another item. The sheretz touched something else, and that was a rishon, and the lechem was the sheni. The lechem touched a rishon that touched the sheretz. So let's say the sheretz touched a piece of meat. V'naga biknafoi el lechem. Right? V'naga biknafoi. Not v'naga knafoi el lechem. V'naga knafoi el lechem means the kanaf touched the lechem. The sheretz touched the lechem. Doesn't say that. V'naga biknafoi el lechem. V'naga bi, that which touched the kanaf, touched the lechem. Not the kanaf came to the lechem. That didn't happen. Something touched the kanaf, which touched the lechem. In other words, there was a rishon in between. So you had a sheretz. You had, let's say, a piece of meat or whatever, which is a rishon. The lechem is a sheni. The nazir is a shlishi. The yayin is a revi. The shemen is a chamishi. As Rashi puts it, Miksiv and naga knafay el alechem. The mashma shasheretz naga belechem, the lechem avirisha. No. Mashe naga biknafay naga alechem. V'naga biknafay el alechem means that which touched the kanaf touched the lechem. Not v'naga knafay el alechem, v'naga biknafay el alechem. Huh? We didn't hear about Shmuel, what he holds. Huh? We're soon going to deal with Shmuel's position. But in the meantime, we know why Shmuel says there was no mistake. The Chamishi. You're saying, forget about Chamishi or Revi. Even if it's a Revi, it's not transferring Tumah. That's what you're saying, right? Unless Shmuel holds like Rav, that the Mizbeach is off limits. Very good point. We're going to get to that. Good point. But clearly, the reason that Shmuel says it's tar is because it was a chamishi. It was a chamishi. Okay, great. What happens after this? Chagai asked test number 1. Rav says they failed. Shmuel says they were successful. Chagai says, okay, guys, question number 2. What's question number 2? Tashma, come in here. The next question is this. We quote a pasuk again. Vayomer Chagai. Chagai says, next pasuk. Im yigat mei nefesh b'chol eila hayitma. I have a new question. What if a tmei nefesh, a tamei mace, tmei nefesh means somebody who became tamei from a dead corpse. He touches all these things, the bread and the stew, the oil and the wine. Hayitma, will it get tamei? Vayano ha-kohanim vayomru yitma. The kohanim said, yeah, now it's tamei. Now it's tamei. Suddenly, the revi became tamei. In other words, it wasn't a sheretz, it was a tmei mace. A person who came in contact with a mace, he's an avatuma, he touched the lechem touched the nazid touched the yayin touched the shemen, and all the kohanim said, Tamei! Frag the Gemarah, bishleim l'shmuel. Like Shmuel, it makes sense, midahacha lo yishtabish, hapsam nami lo yishtabish. Just like the first question, they didn't make an error, they didn't make the second question an error. Why? The first question was on a chamishi, so therefore it was tar. The second question was on a revi. Because in the first question he asked, what's the halacha? If naga biknafay elam lechem, which means not that the sheretz touched the lechem. Not that the sheretz touched the lechem. But that which touched knafay. Naga biknafay. That which touched knafay touched the lechem. So the lechem is a sheni. So the nazir is a shlishi, the yayin is a revi, the shemen is a chamish. The second question was, im yiga tamei nefesh b'chol eila. What's im yiga tamei nefesh b'chol eila? That the tamei nefesh touched the lechem. There was no intermediary. So the lechem is a rishon, the nazir is a sheni, the yayin is a shlishi, the shemen is a revi. So Shmuel says, beautiful, the kohanim were excellent. They passed with flying colors. First time they said tar. Second question they said tamei. Beautiful. But Rav, who says that the first question was also about revi, and that's why they made a mistake. Why in the first question did they err, and when it came to the second question they did an error? Both are revi's. Like Shmuel, the first was a chamishi, the second was a revi. They were bright on both counts. Like Rav, they made a mistake even on the first. Why was it a mistake? Because Rav holds the first was also a revi, and the second was a revi. So why taka did they make a mistake? They knew the halacha of revi v'haraya. The second question they got right. If they knew the halacha of revi, what happened the first question? They cheated in the middle. They checked on Google. They learned Masechta Pesachim between the first question and the second one. What happened? First question, Tamei. Tar. Chagai like, whoa, my guys. Wait, we need a break. What happened? They knew Revi, they didn't know Revi. Gewaldige Kasha on Rav. It's not a question on Rav's position with Tumas Mashkin. That we're finished. Rav was solved. But it's a question on Rav's understanding of Chagai that the Kohanim made a mistake the first time. Which, of course, was the source of a major problem. Huh? Of course. The mace is avia voice. The person touched the mace, he's an avatuma. He touches the lechem is a rishon. The nazir is a sheni, the yayin is a revi. Amar Reb Nachman, Amar Rabbi, Baravua, Reb Nachman, answered Reb Baravua, Kiyin betumas mace, vein kiyin betumas sheretz. The Kohanim perhaps were fluent. They were knowledgeable in the halachas of tumas meis, meaning that a shlishi could make a revi by karbonas. But ve'en pkiyin ein betumas sheretz, they were not fluent in tumas sheretz, and they thought that if a sheretz is the source of tumah, not a meis, then it's more limited, and the shlishi will not make a revi. This was their mistake. Chagai didn't say clearly they failed. We'll soon see why we assume that Chagai felt they failed. That's why Rav and Shmuel can argue. Rav and Shmuel argue because it's not clear in the pasuk. We don't doesn't say clear. We got to figure it out. Huh? Avia voice makes an av, but not the mace touched the lechem. The tmei mace touched the lechem. You understand? The Adam touched the lechem. So the lechem is a rishon. Why would the Kohanim know about mace and not sheretz? You could say, they thought mace is a serious source, much more serious. A shlishi makes it a V. Sheretz is not the same degree of tumah like a mace. We see the difference, right? When you touch a sheretz, you have to go to the mikveh. When you touch a mace, you need a whole process of the cleansing of the paraduma, ashes and water besides the mikveh, and you need 7 days. So they thought perhaps sheretz will not go to the V. The Pnei Yeshua adds a very geschmack of art in the possibility of the mistake. The Pnei Yeshua says that by Tumas Meis there's a unique situation. They tained maybe Revi by Tumas Meis is a takana de Rabbanon because of a unique situation. What's the situation? We learned by Tumas Meis there's a geschmack, interesting halacha. Chalal cherev hareyu kechalal. When the Torah speaks about tumas meis, it says, if you touch a mace or a chalal cherev, somebody was killed by a sword. So we learned from here that cherev hareyu kechalal, meaning if a metal keli, let's say a sword, some say all kelim, besides klei cheres, machlokes rishonim, but a metal keli, a cherev touches a mace. What's the halacha? It's avia voice atuma. It's like the mace. So they thought maybe by tumas meis, the chachamim were afraid, you're going to see a keli, right? You're going to see a keli. But if it touched the mace, you might think what? It's an av hatuma. Really, what is it? Avia voice. The keli touches the bread. You're going to think the bread is a rishon. But really, the bread touched the keli, which is avia voice hatuma. So that's why the rabbis made it all the way till Revi. They made it till Revi because you could get confused by tumas meis and think that an av is really a rishon. And therefore, really, it should go till shlishi. By sheretz, it goes till shlishi. But by tumas meis, the chachamim were afraid that there's a very interesting halacha. That the keli, which is supposed to be an av, is really an avia voice hatuma. So the lechem, which you thought is a rishon, is really an av. Right? So what you think is shlishi is really sheni, and what you think is revi is really shlishi. So that's why they said, you know what, revi is also tameh. To get around this obstacle. But by sheretz, you don't got this issue. Something that touches a sheretz is not an avatumah. It's a rishon. The Pnei Yeshua says, this is maybe what their cheshbon was, that the Gemarah says, P'kiyim betumas meidem. Although the lashon p'kiyim sounds more like that. No, but you could say, because p'kiyim means they were knowledgeable in this halacha of revi by mace, but not in the halacha of revi by sheretz. Right? It doesn't mean they didn't know at all the concept of tumas sheretz. P'kiyim ain't in the protim of tumas sheretz of revi. Al kol ponim, we regardless. Ravina says, Hasem Revi Hachashlishi. No, it's a whole different understanding. The first question he asked about a V. Second question he asked about a shlishi. Why? When he said, Im yigat mei nefesh b'chal eila, he didn't mean a person who touched the mace. He meant the corpse itself. We learned Im yigat mei nefesh b'chal eila, somebody who was tamei from a nefesh. Im yigat tamei nefesh b'chal eila means, tamei nefesh means the tumah of nefesh. So the lechem is an avatuma. it touched the mace. The lechem is an avatuma. The nazir is a rishon. The yayin is a sheni. The shemen is a shlishi. They knew the halacha that a shlishi is tameh. So they were wrong because they didn't know about revi. But that was the difference. Now we understand the difference. First time it was a revi, they made a mistake because it was a sheretz which touched lechem. The second time it was a mace which touched lechem, not a sheretz and not a person who touched the mace. Ooh, it was a shlishi. Shlishi, they know. Not a problem of mace and sheretz. It's a chilik of revi and shlishi. And I should just qualify. L'chayda, we learned that oichel never becomes an avatuma. You remember we learned that a keli can't be a sheni and a person can only be a rishon. They can only get tummy from an av. And an oichel could never be a avatuma. What do we mean an oichel cannot be an avatuma? Oichel can never be metame adam and kelim. What's usually the definition of an avatuma? Avatuma means that if you touch an adam or a keli, they become tameh. But we know that if oichel becomes tameh and it touches a person or a keli, it's not becoming tameh, right? We're talking midoraisa. Oichlin and mashkin will be metame other mashkin or other oichlin, but will not be metame adam and kelim. Here we see that what? That oichel is an avatuma, but it's an avatuma in one din, that if it touches another mashkin, it makes it a rishon. So the lechem becomes an av, that when the lechem touches the nazid becomes a rishon l'tumah, not a sheni l'tumah. So the shemen is a sheni, so the yayin is a sheni, and the shemen is a shlish. Just wanted to clarify that. At least that's what's mashma from Rashi. Let's see Rashi. Rashi says, Ravina Amar, Lo yoyu pkiyim b'revi'i b'kodesh klal, v'gabei meis shlishi b'kodesh boi menayu. The high tomei nefesh the kro lav tmei meis, ela meis mamish, keloimar tumas nefesh, umeis avi avois, v'lechem av, unezid rishon, yayin sheni, shemen shlishi. Zog the Gemarah, 1 second, Toshma. What's the next pasuk? Let's hear the next pasuk. Vayan Chagai vayomer. Chagai finished the test, and Chagai says these words. And now tell me how you would interpret his words. Fail the test or pass the test. These are his words. Kein ha'am hazeh v'chein hagoy hazeh lefonai nu'um Hashem. I'm going to quote the whole pasuk. V'chein kol masa yedeim v'asher yakrivu sham tameu. Chagai said, remember the conversation. The first time the Kohanim say Tahir. Second time they say Tameh. So Chagai responds and says, the same thing is true. This nation and this tribe in front of me, says Hashem, and all the actions of their hands and what their makriv is Tameh. What does this sound like? Bishleim elirav hainu d'ksiv Tameh. Ela l'shmuel amai Tameh. They passed the test. Loit Rav, it's beautiful. Chagai said, oh my God. They don't know the halachas. They're going to go into the Beis HaMikdash. And what's going to happen? There'll be tumah everywhere. They're going to be eating tumah dika karbonas. We have a big problem here. They didn't know that the oil is tumah. I understand. He says anything they're going to be doing is tumah. At least ala safek. We have a big problem. We need to go back to yeshiva. We need to learn Abchaninus Gana Koyanim. I got it. Ela l'shmuel, what's the problem? They knew. I don't understand. The boy passes all the tests, gets 100, and you say, oh my God, you're going to ruin everything? So the Gemarah says, who decided it's an exclamation point? Maybe it's a question mark. Itmua kamatama. Maybe it's a question mark. Maybe you're reading your pasuk wrong. Imagine a following scene. A teacher tells a parent that your child is failing, he doesn't know anything. They come for an exam, and the kid passes everything with flying colors. And the father looks at the teacher and says, you call this a child who's not learning? But what if I wouldn't have the niggin? You call this a child who's not learning. You call this a child who doesn't know? This is ignorance? That's what he was saying. So now you have to read the pasuk very different. That Kein Amazeh v'chein Hagoy v'chein kol mas yedeim v'sheyakrivu sham tamehu. You tell me what they do is tameh when they knew everything. It was like sarcastic. It was itume kamatama. Frag the Gemarah. Wait. V'chein kol mas yedeim ksef. You don't do a run-on sentence which is all cynical. It's all a question. He says, the whole nation, the whole and the whole Goy, which refers to Klal Yisrael and the Kohanim. V'chein kol masa yedayim. You understand? When you do such a question, you don't do a v'chein, like you'll say. This child, right, and everybody else in this classroom, and everything that they do is tameh. He says, v'chein kol masa yedayim ksiv. When you read the pasuk, and the same thing, all their actions are all tameh, it doesn't sound like it's just rhetorical and a question. Mazuta said, some say it was Rabashi who said, that Chagai was saying something else. The exams you got, you know the knowledge, but there's a whole different element. There's the mind and there's the heart. The knowledge you have, you could know all the halachas of Tumah. But if you're not going to live up to moral standards, if you're not going to live according to the highest ethical and spiritual standards, then all the knowledge is going to be worthless. Because in middle of Bayis Sheni, the moral actions of the Jewish people deteriorated. Chagai says, the pasuk says, it's as though you are makriv everything with tumah. In other words, now you passed the tests. So you know all the halachas, but let me tell you, there's different halachas that you have to know. And that is how you live, how you behave. And if the behavior in Bayis Sheni, there was moral deterioration, this is before, right? So he's either warning them or he's prophesizing. And that's going to make everything as though it's tummy. It's irrelevant how pure you are. Your hands could be pure and your body could be pure. But your heart is not pure, your actions are not pure. Let's see Rashi. Vayan shekil kulu ma'aseihem. La'achar zman hoya misnabe sheyikalkulu ma'aseihem b'bayis sheni b'shar aveirus. He was telling them Bayis Sheni is a dangerous time. And what's going to happen is Kol Masi Yedem is going to be Betumah. Not because you don't know the halachas, you do know the halachas, but I'm not telling you about something else. Frex to, what's the connection to before? It's two separate sugas. First he gives a test. Now I want to warn you about something else. So there's a whole other problem you guys got to be careful with. You could say that. Or the Maharam Chalva quotes Rabbi Gon, who says this is what Chagai wanted to talk about. He wanted to talk about this. Okay. He asked them a question. He was expecting they're going to say Tameh. Right? They're going to say Tameh. But they said Tahir. So he asked a second question, and they said on the second question, Tameh. So B'meila, what the Maram Chalva says, they said Tameh, and what Chagai was now saying, based on this last answer, that even if they're going to be doing it B'tara, it's going to be considered Tumah. After they said Tameh, it's Tameh. So the Reb Chagai said, I want you to now understand that what's Tameh is not only if it gets Tameh from a sheretz or a mace. What's Tameh is if it gets Tameh from your maisim. It could be pure, but if your maisim are not tied, it's going to get Tameh. So this is the answer according to Shmuel, what Chagai was telling them. According to Rav, it's not a question. Chagai was talking about the basics. You guys don't know the halachas. We have a problem. You got to go learn. According to Shmuel, you don't have to learn. But you have to learn a different type of ethics. They say a story about the Baal Shem Tov that he once sent his students to go verbringen in an inn, a kretschma. You know, they had those Motel 6s, what you would call today, bed and breakfasts. Huh? Yeah, bars, whatever. Those inns in Ukraine or Russia, wherever it was, Poland, Ukraine. So they say that the Talmidim Baal Shem Tov came. And it was a Jewish fellow, and they were staying over the night, and he brought them food, meat or chicken. They started to investigate the kashrus. Who's the shaychet, and they want to meet him, and they want to see him, they want to make sure, fine. And then they investigated, and then they started to shmuz. And he heard them say some words that were very sharp or negative about somebody. So he turns to them and he says, what you take into your mouth, you're so careful about. Why aren't you be the same careful what you take out of your mouth and you feed into other people's mouths? So they understood why the Baal Shem Tov sent them. It's such a story. I'll call upon them. There's different types of Tara and Tumah. What you take into your mouth, right? And what you release from your mouth. Some people are very careful only with one, not with the other. They won't eat anything. But what they plop is without any limitations. No, I'm just giving one example of the concept of kilkul u'maseim, which causes a different type of tumah. It's a different type of tumah. It's not ritually impure, but it's a different type of tumah. It's ekeldik, not because it's ekeldik. It's just dirty money,
Sometimes people will knock you over to be from.
How do you know that? Okay. Now we have a very straightforward bavarinish that you asked a few moments ago, and the Gemarah is going to now get the puzzle complete, because we want to make sure everything makes sense. Everything now has to be put back in its place. So the Gemarah says, Gufa, Rav Tani Mashke Beis mit Bechaya. Rav said that where is the Tara? Yosef ben Yezer said, what's Tahar? The liquids in the butchering place in the Beis HaMikdash. But there was another testimony, Levi. Levi Mashke Beimid B'chaya. Levi actually had a very different tradition. Levi the Amoira said, you got Yosef ben Yeezer's testimony wrong. Remember, nothing was written. It was all oral, or mostly oral. Mid B'chaya is just a dalet and a tes. Levi said, you got it wrong. Yosef ben Yezer said, the liquids on the Mizbeach were tar, not the liquids in the butchering section. A completely different halacha. The liquids that go on the altar, meaning the blood of karbonos that go on the altar, not in the butchering section. The wine of libations every day on Shabbos. The water of Sukkot, they would pour water on the Mizbeach, Simchas Beis HaSheva. The oil of Menachos. That's all things that will not become Tameh. That's what Yosef ben Yezer said. There's no Tumah in those. He was not talking about Beis Hamid B'chayim. Okay? So we have here a big machlokes. Rav says, Yosef ben Yezer was talking about the butcher house. Levi says, no, he was talking about the altar. That's machlokes 1. Remember machlokes 2, Rav and Shmuel. Rav said the testimony is that it doesn't get Tameh at all. Shmuel said the testimony is doesn't transfer Tumah. Mashke does get Tameh, doesn't transfer them. So we have two major arguments. What was Yosef ben Yezer's testimony? A, the place, the Mizbeach, or the butcher house. A, and B, what does it mean, Tahir? Tahir itself, or Tahir not to transfer Tumah? That was Rav says Tahir on its own, Dachan Mamish. Shmuel said Dachan Militami Achedim. It doesn't transfer. Outside of the Beis HaMikdash, Mashke transfers Tumah. Inside of the Beis HaMikdash, it doesn't transfer Tumah. That's Shmuel, right? Rav holds it doesn't become Tumah in the Beis HaMikdash, because Rav holds Tumas Mashkin is Medirabanan, so they could say in the Beis HaMikdash, in the butcher house, it's not. Shmuel says no, Tumas Mashkin is Deirais, it's also in the Beis HaMikdash, but to transfer Tumah is Medirabanan, that's not in the Beis HaMikdash. Two machlokes. One is where, Mizbeach or butcher house, and one is the nature of the Tara. Is it just for itself, even for itself that it's not Tameh, or just that it doesn't infect others with Tumah? So this is a machlokes. So now let's put the pieces together. Levi, according to Levi, who says that what? That the mashka of the Mizbeach is tahar. How does he do Chagai? How does he work with Chagai? Chagai said that the yayin and the shemen, right? The yayin and the shemen were Tameh. But of the mashka of the Mizbeach, there's no Tumah. How does it work with the pasuk in Chagai? So Hanichi Svira like Shmuel. Fiyods like Shmuel. The Omar Militami Tumasached, Dochan Militami Tumasachedim, who says the testimony of Yosef ben Yezer was that it doesn't transfer Tumah. Aval Tumas Atzman Yeshlehen, but its own Tumah it has. Mashkachas lei. It works by Chagai. Why? The Nagi Kulhu Berishoy. The difference of the first question and the second question was fascinating. In the first question, the sheretz touched the lechem touched the nazir touched the yayin touched the shemen. They were right. It's tahar. You know why it's tahar? Not because chamishi. You know why it's tahar? Because mashke doesn't transfer tumah to another mashke or to anything else if it's from the mizbeach, and this is from the mizbeach. Remember, Levi holds mizbeach. There's no gzeira of tumas mashke melatame achedim. In the second case, why they say it's tameh? The nagi kula berishin. They all touch the mace, or they all touch the adam who touched the mace. If they all touch the adam who touched the mace, then it's not mashke transferring. The lechem touched the mace or the adam. The nazir touched the mace or the adam. The yayin touched the mace or the adam. The shemen touched the mace or the adam. Of course they got tameh, because he holds that mashke gets tameh. So everything is perfect. In the first case, it was transferring tumah from mashke to mashke. So Levi would say, tar, they're right. Kohanim are right. Lo yishtabed. Second case, he learns different. They went directly to this core. They went directly to the source. Nagi kula berishin. They all touched the tmei mace who was a rishon. They all touched the tmei mace who was a rishon. When Chagai said, Im yigat mei nefesh b'chol eileh, he wasn't going back to the first question, the order of evolution. Where tumah touches lechem, lechem touches nazir, nazir touches yain, yain touches shemen. No! The tamei mace himself touched or lechem, or nazir, or yayin, or shemen. Ooh, if you touch the av, if you touch the av hatumah, you become a rishon. It says, the nagi kulhu berishin. They touched all a tmei mace who's a rishon. In other words, it could even be an Adam who touched a mace who touched another Adam, right? An Adam touched a mace, so the Adam is an Av. The Adam touches another Adam. In other words, it can go even more. And I'm Lechem or Nazir, I touched the Rishon, and we all become Tameh. That's what happened. It's not a sequence. So the first question they answered halachically, why? Yayin can be Metame Shemen. It's Mashke Bei Midbachaya, Levi holds. In the second answer, second question, it was direct contact with the source. But if Levi holds like Rav the Amar Dochan Mamish, who holds that mashke itself doesn't become tameh, and he says it's talking about the mizbeach. The whole Chagai wouldn't be right. There won't be a case that the Kohanim would say that it's tameh, and they would be right, because even if a mace touches, yayin and shemen, there's no tumah. Not min atayra, not min derabbanan, because it's mashke mizbeach. And everyone says that the Kohanim didn't make a mistake on the second question. You could say, they made a mistake about everything. Everything was tired. But we say the second question, they were right. According to Rav, this is not a question. Why? Because Rav says that only in the Beis HaMitbachayim there's no tumah. But in the mizbeach, there is tumah. That's what we explained before. So there's no issue. At least with the Rabbanon there's tumah. But we said that Levi holds that the kula was on the mizbeach. So if it means it's completely tar, the Gemarah Chagai wouldn't work. So you have to say that Levi holds like Shmuel. So remember, don't get confused. There's two separate machlokes about Yosef ben Yezer. One is where and one is how. Where is Levi and Rav? How is Rav and Shmuel? Levi must hold like Shmuel in the second machlokes in order to make Chagai's story make sense. Levi, in the machlokes that he has with Rav, must, in the second machlokes that Rav has with Shmuel, he has to hold like Shmuel. Because if not, Chagai wouldn't make sense. He has to hold that Tumas Mashkin itself exists everywhere. Everywhere. Yayin and Shemen could become Tameh. Mitatayra, midrabanan, it could become Tameh. The question is, can it transfer Tumah? Here, by the Mizbeach, it doesn't transfer Tumah. By Chagai, it didn't transfer Tumah. Why was it Tameh in the second question? It touched the mace, or it touched the Tameh mace, or it touched the person who touched the person who touched the mace. That's it. Now he answers your question. Ula Shmuel, and Shmuel, we'll finish with this. Shmuel who said what? That the Kohanim did not make a mistake. Why? In the first case, because the Yayin was Revi, and the Shemen was Chamishi. Okay, now, let's go this. Would Shmuel have to agree with Rav or Levi? You see how we're doing this? Everything has a place. Does Shmuel agree with Rav or Levi? I know Shmuel is arguing with Rav about the nature of the Tumah, but what about the place of the Tumah? Is there another argument here too? Ula Shmuel, Hanichis avalei kirav the tani mashki beis mitbachaya. For he agrees with Rav that the location of the purity was the butcher place. Aval mashke bei mitbachaya chirinami metamu. But by the mizbeach, mashke becomes tamei and also transfers tumah. Revi hu de lo yavid chamishi, hashlishi yavid revi. I understand that wine which is a revi can transfer tumah to oil which is a chamishi, but if the wine was a shlishi, it would transfer tumah to the oil which is a revi. Which is why Shmuel had to explain that the reason the Kohanim didn't make a mistake in the first question was why? Because it was a chamishi. That's why Shmuel had to say that. Eli Savala Kalevi, but if he holds like Levi the Tani Mashki Bei Midbechaya, who holds that what? That mashka of the mizbeach is pure, and what's haste pure? It doesn't transfer tumah to other liquids. That means that wine and oil of karbonis can't transfer tumah to other liquids. Why does Shmuel have to say that the reason the Kohanim did an error is because Revi doesn't make a chamishi, even a sheni and a shlishi it doesn't make. If the wine was a sheni, it wouldn't make a shlishi. If the wine was a rishon, it wouldn't make a shleni. What's the big deal? Because mashke doesn't transfer tumah. The rabbis didn't allow this chumrah by the mizbeach. So why does Shmuel give me this whole pilpul that the Kohanim didn't make a mistake? Because biknafai, there was another element between the lechem and the sheretz, and the lechem wasn't a rishon, the lechem was a sheni, the nazir was a shlishi, the ayin was a revi, the shem was a chamishi. Stop it! Stick to Rav, say there was a sheretz, there was lechem, the lechem was a rishon, the nazir was a sheni, the ayin was a shlishi, shem was a revi. Yayin can't transfer tumah to shemen on the mizbeach. That's what Shmuel should have said. Elamai. In the argument of location, he goes with Rav. He argues with Rav what it means that it's tahor. But the location, he agrees with Rav. That the mizbeach liquids transfer tumah. Why? Because the rabbis never made a leniency on the liquids of the mizbeach. Only on the liquids of the butchering section. And hence, Shmuel must say that the reason the Kohanim didn't make a mistake is because it was a chamishi. That's the only justification. Okay. A shtickle Gemarah, huh? We can understand the svara on both. The svara based mitbachaya is the amount of blood and water you're dealing with. I thought the oil and the wine was very limited. Revi'is ahin, everything was with akeli. There was a time, there was a place, there was who's responsible. It was a very controlled atmosphere. You brought a carbon tumid, right? So now you had to take wine. They had measurements, how much. It wasn't a balagan of kaporis. You know what I mean? You ever saw kaporis? You know what I mean? I don't mean to compare. I should say lahavdil. But you understand what I mean? The Beis HaMitbachayim was lebedik and freilich. How much blood was there? How much water was there? So if that gets tamei, but the kamas, the quantity is much more, and the balagan is much more on both levels. The other one not. On the other hand, the svara of Levi you can understand is because these are mamish going onto the mizbeach. The other one, most of it is going to be eaten. It's going to be eaten by the Kohanim. It's going to be eaten by the Yisraelim. It's a whole different mahalach. So if it gets tummy, you'll burn it. Remember, the carbon is not disqualified. Once you put the blood on the mizbeach, you're good. Right? But I don't want the blood to get tameh. I don't want the shemen to get tameh. I don't want the liquids on the mizbeach to get tameh. That's Levi's svara. L'chayra, that's,
Levi's svara is the Beis HaMitbachaya.
In other words, Rav holds that the ikir hakpada of the Chachamim was not to ruin karbonis, hefset kachim. Where's the karbonis going to get ruined most likely? The blood and the water in the Beis HaMitbachayim to get tameh. Levi says that wasn't the vart. What they were more chayshish is things that go on the mizbeach. More sensitivity to that which was going onto the mizbeach. Rav had more sensitivity Not to, it wasn't going in the Mizbeach already. There was a part that can go on the Mizbeach, but it was also much more. Huh? Yeah. What would Rav hold, Lamashal? What would Levi hold? Let's say you had water, and you brought it in, but you didn't want to use it for Nisach HaMayim on the Mizbeach. You wanted to use it for rinsing. That Mayim, right, would become Tameh, according to Levi. That Mayim would become Tameh. In other words, if the water wasn't designated for the Mizbeach, it's already considered Mashke Beis HaMitbachayim. According to Rav, that water would be Tahir. According to Levi, it would be Tameh. Yeah. Huh? In other words, yeah. Levi, it's not that Levi says both are Tahir. It's mashma that it's a machloikas. Levi holds dafka mizbeach and not mitbachayim. That's the mashmos of the Rishon. Not that Levi is lenient about everything. Levi holds dafka the mizbeach. Another interesting thing would be, let's say you have blood that you can't sprinkle on the mizbeach. For example, blood of the animal falls on the floor. You can't use it anymore for the mizbeach. It's not an akeli. That blood, according to Levi, will become tameh. According to Rav, it won't become tameh because that's part of the mitbachayim blood. And according, you understand? The blood in a keli that's going to the mizbeach, according to Rav, that could become tameh. According to Levi, that can't become tameh. The water that you bring in a vessel because you want to use it to rinse, not for nisach hamayim, according to Rav, no tumah. According to Levi, tumah. The mayim that you bring in for nisach hamayim, for the libation, according to Levi, will never become tameh. According to Rav, will become tameh.
Why not have to wash? It's not matbachayim, not mitbachayim.
No, according to Rav, if you take water and you sanctify it in a clay shares for nisach hamayim on sukkahs, they would take from the well and they sang there and put in a kale, they're giving it to the kohen to go pour it. According to Rav, yeah, a sheretz falls into it, it becomes tameh. According to Levi, it doesn't become tameh. Well, actually, Levi holds it becomes tameh, it just doesn't transfer tameh. It doesn't transfer tameh. We'll resume Be'ezer Hashem on Monday. You have to chazer. You got to chazer the Gemarah. Very important. Between the Sheva Brachas. Okay. Everybody have a wonderful day and a wonderful week. Mazel tov again.
Thank you very much.
Is verstanden? In the yeshivas, they skip this Gemarah. I don't. This Gemarah, you're not supposed to skip. It's Judaism. It's Yiddishkeit. It's the sensitivity of Yiddishkeit.
You have to say it over, probably.
I don't know if it's a Dvar Torah for the Shabbos table, but Chagai. No, but Chagai is very geschmack.
Yeah.
People think that tests started only in recent generations. This was a real test. And it wasn't an abstract test. You see how to give a test. You learn from Chagai how to give a test.
Some of it wasn't halacha.
Huh?
Some of it wasn't halacha.
I don't think in my yeshiva they skipped it. I think they just explained it for people.
No, you see how to give a test. You know, he had props. Bread and a stew. Bread and a stew. I was thinking of asking you, Rabbi Aaron, to bring to the shiur bread, a stew, water, and oil, a wine and oil. I didn't want to ask you for a dead sheretz, but
and it actually made him know that sheretz
I don't know if
is
he.
the easiest thing.
But the
buy a little toy.
but the point is, he illustrated. He didn't just speak abstract. Rish, sheni, shlishi. He gave a very physical example.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.